We are finally back. It's been a long time, but Lucky Strike Tech is finally back in the game after a long, much needed break. And we're jumping right in with a review of two new products from Fifine. The Fifine AM6 and the low profile boom arm BM88. Each of these products are worth about $60 each, and links will be provided in the description down below if you're interested. First, we'll start off with the boom arm. As we go to unbox this, it comes with everything you need to get going. I picked up the white version, but it does come in all black. One comment about the white version is that the paint job is not the best. Not that you're going to notice it, but when it's in your setup and all assembled, it looks just fine. But, well, it looks like just a very well done spray paint job over the black version they offer. But it's hardly noticeable in my opinion. The cable management trays are long enough to fit a couple of wires or a large XLR cable, so you shouldn't need to worry about that at all. It comes with 3 different screw sizes of 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, and 5/8 of an inch, so you can attach any type of microphone setup you want. It extends to over 29 inches across and can rotate 360 degrees if needed. Though you'll need to keep an eye on that cable because it is going to wrap around the actual boom arm itself. It also does adjust up. It does adjust up and downwards as needed as well, and the tension of each section can be adjusted as kind of your preference. I haven't used a low profile boom arm before, but it really does clean your desk up quite nice. And the biggest reason I never used my mic for gaming was just how much of my view was taken up by the boom arm that covered part of my screen. Having this one out of your way is a much more convenient way of having this setup in your desk. In fact, if I remove the desk stand here, I can even place it behind my monitors and push it out of the way entirely. There do seem to be a lot of versions of this boom arm that I've seen across different makers, so just be aware that this isn't the only place you can get this same boom arm from. But Fifine is a very reliable brand that I do stand by, so if this runs into any issues, you're most likely to get a refund from them rather than someone else you may not trust. It's definitely going to take the place of the Joby I've had on my desk for the better part of a year. Now we're going to move on to the microphone. The Fifine AM6 is what I would consider the next generation of the A6, which you've seen kind of reviewed on this channel before, and was one of the first microphones I ever reviewed. It comes packed with features but lacks the boom arm bundle that was provided with the A6 version. Out of the box, you receive the microphone, stand, and decently long USB-C cable. Plastic is reminiscent of the A6 but not as high quality as the AM8, and is more on par with the AmpliGame A8, which is more lightweight and has a decent sound overall and look. It does have a lot of knobs and buttons, and plugging it in, the RGB has a very nice ring at the bottom and glow on the microphone itself. The button at the bottom lets you toggle between 14 different RGB options, 6 gradient styles, 6 solid color styles, and a breathing effect that can cycle through static or gradient styles. I feel like Fifine has always excelled in the RGB area. I wonder if they should start looking into the RGB accessories area. So the stand is not my favorite. I actually really dislike this style of stand. And I prefer something much more classic, like the Fifine AM8, where the stand is actually on both sides, or like the Fifine A8 with an actual boom arm and kind of holder around it. Shock mount, that's what that's called. The reason why is once you set it, good luck touching it without completely flopping it over, which in my case did interfere with the cable placement and did bend the cable a tiny bit. If I could, I'd switch to a different style entirely, like the ones I mentioned before. Now we need to get into all these buttons and knobs and what they do. On the right, you have 2 dials. One controls the gain of the microphone and the other controls the volume of your headset when it's plugged into the bottom. This of course would be using the 3.5mm jack. On top, you have a touch soft mute button to silently mute your mic. This is a feature all microphones from Fifine feature, which is a fantastic overall thing that I think every microphone should have. And then there's a button on the bottom for noise cancellation. From my experience, Fifine has some of the best in-mic sound canceling in the business. This mic says it has 2 denoise mics built in to cancel any noise from your environment. I'm not sure if this is any better than the other models, but we are going to test them. So if you have any noisy environment, there is no other better brand than this Fifine microphone. Any of the Fifines, of course, will do the job. So the button on the bottom lets you cancel out even more noise than the standard Fifine microphone, because again, they say it's dual, they say the button adds more of a feature, but let's test that. The front dial lets you control 2 application audio output. So if you have Discord chat on and a game on, you can turn the dial to turn it up or turn it down, or have them equally loud by having it in the middle. There is one caveat to this though. This only works if you're using the monitor jack on the bottom with your headset headphones and you are using a PC. This does not work with any other system like a PlayStation 5. And it will not come out of your speakers. It'll only come out of the headphones plugged into this port. And that does mean you will hear your voice as well on top of everything. I've tested to try and get this working outside of that port, as well as contacted a representative from Fifine to see what the feature was actually intended to do. And it seems this is the only way it works. In my opinion, I don't think that's a value add feature, only because I don't like hearing myself when I talk into a microphone. I feel like I've heard myself enough and it's too distracting. But if you plan on using the 3.5mm monitoring jack, then this feature could be valuable to someone like you. All you have to do is plug in your headset, set your application output to Fifine Game for one app, set your application input for Fifine Chat for another app, tune the dial as needed. Now let's get into how this sounds. We'll compare this to 3 different microphones. One is listed as the Fifine AM8, which is currently listed for about $55 at the time of writing, has XLR and USB-C, and it's a dynamic microphone as well. Second is the Fifine A8, which is listed for about $45 at the time of writing, and a condenser microphone. And lastly is the TZ Stellar X2, which is actually the microphone I'm using right now to record this, and has been my microphone for about the last 6 months. It's about $200 listed right now. So we'll see how it compares to about a $60 microphone to a $200 microphone to see if it can stand up. This is the Fifine AM6 with noise cancellation turned off currently, so any noise you're going to hear in my environment is not going to be your experience with the noise cancellation on. The knobs are right in the middle, exactly how you'd sound, and it's filming straight into the Filmora for me, so this is exactly how it's going to sound for you when you're recording. This is the Fifine AM6 with noise cancellation turned on, so we'll just see how strong this can really be. Maybe I'll bump the table, maybe I'll scratch some things over here, kind of rustle my clothes, scratch over here. Maybe what's over here? Can you hear anything? I couldn't tell you, I'm not listening to it, but noise cancellation is on. Let's see if it sounds any better. Or worse for that matter. This is the Fifine AM8, and I was a huge fan of this microphone. I did publish a whole video on this. If you want to take a look, I'll leave the link in the description down below. But overall, this microphone really pleased me. There's no noise cancellation actively on this. It's just how it's built in. But again, the knobs are straight in the center, and we're going to see how this performs versus the AM6. And lastly, we have the AmpliGame A8 by Fifine. Again, I love this microphone. I gave it a lot of praise back in the day. There's a video again on this microphone specifically you can check out if you're interested. But we're going to see how it compares to the AM6. There's no active noise cancellation built into this. It's just how it is. The knob is straight in the center as it sounds. And the last thing we're going to do is hit the $200 microphone up and see how it compares. And lastly, this is the Stellar X2 TZ. And this is a $200 microphone that you'd have to have closer to your mouth compared to the other two. But overall, it's a really nice microphone. I really enjoy the tone of this one, and it has a lot of features that kind of the other microphones don't, because it is XLR and it is also a good sounding kind of warmness. So anyway, this is the Stellar X2. We're gonna see how it compares to the AM6. Let me know in the comments down below which one's your favorite after all these tests. So after going through everything and all the tests that I've done, I gotta say that my microphone is still the best, the Stellar. However, the quality is not that much different from the Fifine microphones. Fifine makes fantastic mics. So as far as quality goes, I feel like the A8 was a little bit lower quality than the rest of the bunch. So he's kind of on the bottom of this totem pole here, if you will. The second runner up is the AM6. And the AM6 did a great job. It was very clear. It had a lot more treble in the tone that I've heard. It wasn't as much low end that Fifine's kind of known for, so there's a lot more crispiness to it, if you will. And I really liked that. The noise cancellation feature was kind of pointless. It just made it too fuzzy to even hear. I don't think that's a feature they should really try and add, because if you turn your gain and adjust your volume just right, Fifine by itself does a great job blocking out background noise. And if I had my gain lower on these, I promise you it wouldn't hear any of the hum of the background of my environment, so I wouldn't worry about that whatsoever. Additionally, in this microphone, the features it's adding on here, like the game and chat balancer, if you don't use the 3.5 at the bottom, it's not enough features to make me want this microphone over something like the AM8, which is still my favorite sounding microphone that Fifine makes in their group. I'm a huge fan of this microphone. It's dynamic, so you can't hear anything in your environment, and you can set it up just right so the plosives aren't too much if you have a what's the word for it? One of these guys. When I figure out the name, because it's late at night, I will put it at the bottom. But if you have one of these, you're not going to hear yourself talk as much. It's not going to be as loud with the plosives, the p and the duh. So did the AM6 make the cut? I think it did, and a decent replacement to the A6, but they should focus less on the features they're providing and bring the price down a little bit. They don't need to stand out against the rest. They should see what they can do with the quality of the microphone overall to make it look premium, as well as the RGB and the overall stability of the microphone, rather than focusing on any extra features, because they don't really add much unless you're using that bottom monitoring, which I personally don't. So this can be a good value for you. It's not a good value for me, but overall it's another great Fifine microphone. There's nothing glaringly wrong with this, except for that noise cancellation at the bottom is a completely useless thing that I guarantee you never use. So there's one thing I have to say for Fifine. Between your microphones, you haven't changed much, but you've done a great job. I wonder how far you can take your bundles, maybe your boom arms, and drive the prices down to be even more competitive than they are. Thank you for watching Lucky Strike Tech. I hope you liked the new content, the new room that I'm in, and all the new things that are going on with this channel. I'll be posting a new series here shortly where we deep dive into different types of tech and where they kind of sit in society, so that'll be an interesting series to keep an eye on. If you liked the video, hit subscribe and like. If you didn't like the video, let me know what I could have done better in the comments down below. Have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one.